This series, I know you have ties with the Celtics, but I'm going to ask you to divorce those ties just for this question. In this series, would you rather have Steph Curry and Klay Thompson or Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown?
Well, Tony, first of all, you know this about me. I'm unbiased to the max, okay? That's first thing first. But listen, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Klay Thompson, and Steph Curry, we all know that they can explode for big offensive nights. But what separate those four guys, what separate the duo of Golden State far as with the Boston Celtics, is that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are actually two-way players. They get it done on the defensive side of things. So if you asking me who I'm picking out of those four, out of those two duos, I'm going with the Boston Celtics duo. And the reason being is because defense wins championships. It's been proven throughout the history of the NBA. You can make all the shots you want, but at the end of the day, you got to get stops. And having those two guys as elite wing defenders, I'm going with those two out of far as the better duo.
All right, we're going to stay on that theme for a second, Perkins. Steve Kerr said Marcus Smart is like the guard version of Draymond Green, which obviously focuses largely on defense. But do you like that comparison in terms of their roles on their teams and what they do and how they excel?
You know what? I actually do. And not just because they're both defensive-minded. I mean, because they're both defensive-minded guys and they anchor the defense and they're the defensive captains, but because they're the heart and soul of both of their teams. When you think about Marcus Smart, right, he is the heart and soul of that Celtic team. The way that he play, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and everybody else follows his lead. And then when you think about the offensive side of things, right, Draymond Green is what? He is the facilitator for Golden State. What is Marcus Smart? Marcus Smart is the facilitator for the Boston Celtics. So I actually agree with Steve Kerr when he makes that comparison about Draymond Green and Marcus Smart. That is actually spot on.
We're going to move to somebody else you know. And I worked with you enough this year to know that you thought Ime Udoka was going to be, you thought Udoka was going to be a good coach from the time that he was named. You were in the league when he was in the league playing. What is it about him? His style, his authority, what assets, what do you see about him, and why did you like him immediately for this team?
The same reason that I like and love you and Tony and PTI. I get a chance to come on here like with my uncles and really get down to the nitty gritty, right? That old school caliber coaching. We watch Ime Udoka meet guys at half court, whether it's Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown, getting on them about blown coverages on the defensive end, getting on them about messing up plays or not finding the right guy on the offensive end. And so when we see those type of things happening on the in game, imagine what he's doing behind closed doors. And this is why I'm so big on former players getting head coaching opportunities, especially young former players, because behind the scenes, they're able to go and speak those young guys' languages. Now, I don't want to say what the language is on television, but both of y'all know exactly what the hell I'm saying.
All right, we'll get you out of here on this, and I'll get to the question in a second. I just want to step back for a moment and say that you picked Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. It's a good reason you gave. The other two guys are going to the Hall of Fame for certain. They're the best backcourt of all time. I'm just going to point that out, and now I'm going to go to this question, and you can refer back to that at any time. We all know what the Warriors are going for historically. They're looking to be named a dynasty over some long period of time. But Udoka, after beating Miami, said this quote, "We don't celebrate Eastern Conference championships in the Celtics organization. You played for the Celtics for a long period of time. Did you feel that historical expectations? Am I correct in saying that if you don't win it all in Boston, like you can't have a good season? It's not enough to have a good season. You got to win it all."
Tone, we do realize that the Celtics are tied with the Lakers for having the most NBA championships. Yep. They have 17 of them. They don't care about making it to the finals. They want to bring it home. One, they want to win Banner 18 before the Lakers so that they could be one up. Two, I think Ime Udoka, again, the great leadership, he was setting the boundaries in the presence of the locker room right there at the moment and saying, hey, I understand this is a huge moment to celebrate. We made it to the finals. But him as being a former champion as a player, being a former champion as a coach, he know how overwhelming the finals could be. So what did he do? He went in there and he said, hey, to his young guys in the locker room, hey, listen, we're looking past this. We need everybody to regroup because if you get caught up in the moment, you could look like the Oklahoma City Thunder when James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant, Kendrick Perkins, and Serge Ibaka played the Miami Heat and get beat. Instead of worrying about basketball, you're just happy about getting there. That was great leadership by Ime Udoka.
It's great to have you. It's a pleasure to have you on. Thank you very much.
Much appreciated.
We'll check in with both of them in just a minute, but we're going to start with the Warriors, back in the finals after a 2-year hiatus as a franchise seeking their 7th title, which would break a tie with the Bulls for the 3rd most all time. Home court, a big advantage. As this may be prognosticating, Klay Thompson said earlier this season that it's championship or bust. Here's what he said today about that prediction.
Well, I made that observation because we started 18-2. And, you know, that's an incredible start. And I wasn't even in the lineup yet. We weren't even whole, so I just envisioned us as all the pieces of the puzzle together, and I thought we could attain greatness. So to be back for a 6th time, it's incredible. It's even incredible just saying that. It's just great. I'm just going to enjoy every second of this and play as hard as I can, and then you can walk away with no regrets.
Reforming the identity of who we are and how we play, and then coming into this year, like I still was surprised by our start, like I said, but that was the gas in the tank for the whole summer and for the start of this year, knowing that we're going to be a problem this year, and we got 4 more wins to make it all worth it, but it's a good feeling.
Let's stay right there and start with the OGs. Of course, I'm referring to the Warriors, not Kendra Andrews. Kendra, we heard Klay allude to being back in the finals. How are the Warriors drawing on their experience at this stage as they prepare for Game 1?
Yeah, Elle, the Warriors are really drawing on the selflessness that they've played with to win at this stage. Draymond Green said it's really about keeping egos in check and understanding that as long as the team is winning as a whole, you are also going to win on an individual basis as well. And the Warriors, you know, Klay Thompson said, I never really thought that I was going to be here for my 6th NBA final, especially after everything that I have been through. So they're trying to just really savor this moment, but as you heard him say, put everything out on the court, and he's really encouraging his teammates to do that as well.
They've certainly been rounding into form. Klay Thompson, such a great story to see him back in the NBA Finals. But let's talk about the Celtics as well. Plenty of rife storylines on that side. I mentioned being the most winning, it's the 3rd most for the Warriors. How about the Celtics seeking an NBA record 18th World Championship, their first since 2008. Bumpy road for Boston, though, to the Finals. Celtics 4th team to reach the Finals despite having a losing record halfway through an 82-game season. Collectively, they have 581 games of playoff experience, but none of those games were in an NBA Finals. So here's Jason Tatum today.
No, it definitely does feel different, right? It's a lot more media, a lot more obligations, so it definitely does feel different. I'm sure, basketball is still basketball, but, all the things leading up to it, it's unlike anything else.
I find that to be so adorable. He's like, there's so much more media when it comes to the finals. And we heard Tatum there just talk about his perspective. But what is the Celtics' perspective on their lack of finals experience as opposed to the Warriors?
Well, I actually asked him that question, Ellen. It was funny to see him kind of be starry-eyed, especially because Tatum is a pretty level-headed guy most of the time. But Ime Udoka has consistently said his team is going to be prepared for this series despite the fact it has no finals experience among its players. Take a listen to what he had to say about it today.
We have guys that are young but have been through a few Eastern Conference Finals already, and then our path this year, 2 Game 7s and playing some high-level teams and taking a tough route. I think that's prepared us more than anything. I coached in 2 finals my first 2 years in the league, got to a Western Conference final as a player myself. And then we've had other coaches who have been through it and won championships as well. And so we can kind of give our advice on what's to come. But once we get out there, I think what's really been good about our group is they're not caught up in the moment. The game sevens, playing on the road, you see our record. And more so than anything, it's just basketball. At the end of the day, that's what we try to stress. And I think that's the benefit of our group being so young and approaching it that way.
Well, and listen, that's the thing, as Ime Udoka said. This Celtics team has a lot of guys who have a ton of playoff experience. You said it before, Al. 580 games of playoff experience for this group. Al Horford played more playoff games than any player in NBA history without making the NBA Finals. And even these young guys like Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Marcus Smart, they've all been to 3 or 4 Eastern Conference Finals already. So while they were a little overawed by the moment today and the media and everything else that's going on, they have played in a ton of big playoff games. And this team is very confident, as you said earlier, that they can come into this series, win 4 games, and get Banner 18 raised to the rafters at TD Garden.
Certainly confident on the road. You just heard Ime Udoka talk about their record. They're 7-2 on the road this postseason. That is tied for the most road wins entering a finals in NBA history. They're going to need that because they're facing the Warriors, who are